Jerry, Roberto, Clark, three of our longtime AAMI faculty, deep subject matter experts in sterilization. Wanted to sit down today and talk about some of the things that are going on in the world of sterilization. A lot happening. We're here at AAMI Standard Sterilization Week, so all of you are participating in the committees that you contribute to here at AAMI. But what's happening out there, Jerry? What are kind of the headlines in the world of sterilization?
Well, there's a lot going on in sterilization. We have a lot of issues with ethylene oxide, mostly related to emissions, but is having pushback to the industry. There's certainly pressures on the sterilization with other modes of sterilization like radiation that are because of that, and then we're looking at alternate forms of sterilization as well.
Okay. So tell me a little bit, and so Clark, I know you're an expert in the area at EO. What are some of the issues that are going on there that Jerry referenced?
The biggest one is really with EPA and emissions. The EPA is claiming that there's ethylene oxide being added to the atmosphere that's harmful. That's not really true. The amount of EO that's present normally in the environment is higher than what they're looking for, but it's an issue that's caused the standards to be very relevant because people are all over the country are requalifying cycles to use lower amounts of EO, which leads to less emissions, lower residues on the product. So it's a win-win for a lot of groups, but it's some unusual pressure right now from EPA on the front. And it's also led to the capacity for EO sterilization in the country to be at or near zero right now.
And I know that's been an ongoing issue for a little while. We were hearing about that last year, right? I mean, there were issues with some of the plants being offline, things of that sort. So Roberto, you've taught the course many, many times. So are these the types of topics that you get into in the training?
Yes.
Some of the requalification we were
Certainly,
talking about.
and
what does that mean to a layperson, requalification? What are people doing to deal
Sure,
with the issue?
sure. So again, when we teach the course, it's all related to ISO 11135, which is the ethylene oxide sterilization standard. And we do cover validation, requalification activities, but also to what Jerry was mentioning, optimization of the process. So how can you reduce EO concentration or modify the cycle or look for ways to optimize the process so you actually meet the requirements or the new requirements that are coming out there?
Yeah, okay, got it. Now you mentioned radiation, that there was some additional focus on that. So say a bit about that.
Well, part of the issue is that because so many capacity issues with ethylene oxide and because of facilities closing, that many industry or manufacturers, medical device manufacturers, are looking to switch over to using radiation for some of their products that are compatible. And that's put pressure on the gamma, particularly for gamma radiation, because that's a resource that's not easily available. You know, it's about a 2-year time frame before you can resupply so that they would have capacity. So it's putting pressure on the gamma sites for capacity as well.
Oh, interesting. So
if I could add
please.
to that, it's also doing the same thing for electron beam sterilization. And it's causing people not only to look at radiation, which now is including X-ray sterilization, which is a new and upcoming modality. There's 2 facilities being built right now in the U.S. It's also, Jerry hinted at this originally, looking at alternative sterilization methods besides those 3, which are the biggest ones, EO, gamma, and E-beam. So people are exploring other ways to do that now, and AAMI's nicely covering that in standards that they're putting out, so people have some kind of guideline to follow for what they need to do if they're looking at some other not as commonly used methods.
And so say a bit more about those standards. So you mentioned one that covers the EO. What other standards are being impacted sort of by name? And I won't know them all, but what other standards are sort of under revision, review, update related to all this, or maybe just more relevant than ever, even if they're not changing?
Sure. So there are standards and there are also technical reports. So we do cover, and again, 11137, 11135. We also go over TIR 16, TIR 17. The last one I just mentioned is material compatibility. TIR 16 is microbiological methods, and there's a wide variety of other standards that we do cover. And please mention any other if I missed one.
Any other big ones to call out?
Well, actually, I just wanted to add to what Roberto said about TIR 17. That one's actually under revision right now, and that's a very useful document for medical device manufacturers because it goes over the material
And what was
compatibility.
TIR 17?
It's material compatibility
Okay.
to sterilization, but it includes many. It includes radiation, ethylene oxide, moist heat, hydrogen peroxide methods, chlorine dioxide is going to be added, ozone. You know, there's a variety of different sterilization methods. And in the new standard is, and you can correct me, there's going to be also an annex that will address the possibilities of things that you need to look at if you're switching from one sterilization method to another.
Okay. So is this a retraining issue for folks? I mean, are folks that are already out in the field practicing and maybe specialists in one modality, are those folks retraining to become specialists in other modalities? Say a little bit about that. I mean, how does this affect the industry?
It's a little bit of several things. It's for new people that are coming in to have to broaden their base of what they knew before. So that's one. It is certainly retraining for some people to expand into other areas. And with new methods that are coming along, they need some kind of guidance and some place to look for what do I need to do for this.
Right.
So,
Right. So yeah, big impact there.
So in the education courses, in the industrial sterilization course, we hit on alternate sterilization methods. So giving people some guidance about how to make an assessment of what they need to do if they want to switch or to initiate use of a new product with a particular sterilization method. So yeah, there definitely has to be some training because although they're all sterilization methods, they're all very different from each other in the actual application.
and related to the AAMI courses, this is a good point to make, is those courses are living courses and they don't stagnate because up to about 2 years ago there was not a module on alternative sterilization methods. But because we realized that that was an important thing to look at, the course was modified and added. So those courses are nice because they are changed periodically to keep up with the times and what's coming new, and that's important.
When we've been doing this new format, Expert Insights at AAMI, where we're doing shorter format courses, is, for instance, the update was TRR 17. It's undergoing the
Yes.
major up. Is that one that we should look at, Expert Insights, doing a pop-up when that comes out, or an Expert
yes,
Insights
definitely.
course?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be enough there. So folks should check back when that up. What's the timing of that? I don't know where you are in the process. Is it near ballot? Is it not near ballot?
That it's more at the beginning. However, that document is currently available. So there's
Okay.
a lot of information. It's because this is just a revision to add more information.
Okay.
So people should, if they don't have a copy of that, they should definitely get a copy of that.
Maybe we should spend something up on the education side even now,
Yes.
before the update, get people aware. Okay, excellent.
Definitely.
Well, any other big topics we should talk about while we're together? We've got the brain trust here. If it doesn't get discussed here, it's probably not relevant, so.
Well, just to mention that ISO 1135 is also starting its revision process, as is the radiation standard 11137 Part 1. So those are two documents that are starting revision. And the moist heat sterilization standard, which is 17665, is hopefully getting close to the end of its revision process. So a new standard should be coming out for that in 2023.
So we know from the conversation some of the pressures to move towards alternative methods or some of the existing methods that are more widely established. But so that's one change that's happening. But are there any significant industry drivers that are likely to drive? And I know you can't predict, but as you enter the revision period for those standards, are there any industry trends that are really driving, you think, some expected major changes in those? Are they tweaks at the edges, or is it too early to know?
My personal opinion, I think parametric release is becoming more and more critical.
It's a big one.
And that is will be a big benefit as more and more companies realize that they can use parametric release and that it is accepted from a regulatory standpoint, and to kind of keep pushing that envelope to accept that not just in the U.S. but worldwide, is to make sure that that's something that will benefit the industry overall.
And to elaborate a little more, parametric release is not using some type of biological or physical or chemical indicator, but to release the load based on just the parameters of the process That's really been in vogue for a long time with moist heat, but it's been around for a while for ethylene oxide, but more and more people need to move in that direction. And now it's been talked about for radiation and the alternative methods as well, possibly even for aseptic processing, which is going to be tricky. But that's something that's a hot topic now too, and there's a lot of activity going on with that as well.
Okay. And let me ask one more question to close out on the how much is that a global issue? And anyone who's working globally can answer that. The three of you, I don't know who would be best suited.
I think I can answer that question. I can tell you that I have some overseeing on some sites around the world, and it's major in the United States. And there's some conversations also in Europe, not as, I guess, as big as is happening here. But many companies are actually looking ways to sterilize in outside the U.S. because of that.
Right. Well, I know when I visited Costa Rica, the spin up was so fast there; it was unbelievable. And that was, of course, before COVID, and I didn't get to go back for a while. But if I go back now, there's even more.
Exactly,
the growth rate was unbelievable.
It's actually one of the locations.
And they were doing that sterilization there in country.
Correct.
And it was end-to-end manufacturing, assembly, sterilization, and it was incredible. So. Well, thanks to all three of you for the time, and I hope people find this useful, and I hope they will come and find us so they can take one of the courses from you all, and we'll work on getting some more courses up in terms of the expert insights, some of the short form stuff. But thank you very much, not only for what you're doing in terms of the courses and being AAMI faculty, but just what you're doing with the standards groups and keeping us all healthy. So
Thanks for having us.
thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.